Welcome back to Hour 2 of Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on the Rense Radio Network. Joining us for the first half hour of the second hour is Brigitte Gabriel, the author of They Must Be Stopped, Why We Must Defeat Radical Islam and How We Can Do It. Ms. Gabriel is also the founder of actforamerica.org, and she, unlike most people, is not just somebody who thinks she knows what radical Islam is. She's lived it. She's experienced it personally. Welcome back to the program, Ms. Gabriel.
I thank you. I'm glad to be back with you.
You know, a lot's happened since we spoke back in October. You've got even more things taking place in Egypt. You've got the new Egyptian president basically declaring himself a dictator. We've got situations in Syria deteriorating far beyond what people could have imagined. And you've been sounding the warning bells for quite some time, and people don't seem to be listening. What's going on?
This is when we hear the phrase, Larry, history, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And we have seen over the years and over the centuries how men who have big egos, who are driven with an agenda, come to power, and once they are in power, they declare themselves dictators, and then they rule their population. And we were warning about this with Egypt. We were warning about this with the Muslim Brotherhood, with Morsi, when he was running for the election, when he was put up by the Muslim Brotherhood. And while our administration, headed by President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, assured the world that President Morsi is a moderate statesman, I mean, they built him up to be this wonderful reformer, only right now to find out that the man practically declares himself a dictator. He is pushing a Sharia, a very strict radical Islamic agenda, and it is going to be very bad for the United States. The parallel between what's happening in Egypt right now and what happened in Iran in 1979 with the coming of Khomeini are amazing.
See, I actually remember watching the TV. I was actually going to school at a community college in southeast Arizona that had a large Iranian student population that were in their pilot training program. This was before the Shah of Iran was overthrown and, the hostages were taken. I can tell you from personal experiences, the faces of these Iranian pilot students when that happened was as if they had just seen a ghost. It was like they knew something terrible was going to happen as far as what they were doing here in the U.S. Why is it so difficult for people to understand that the majority of people in Egypt really are not pushing for Morsi's agenda?
Well, here is the reality, Larry. Unfortunately, the majority of people in Egypt are pushing for Morsi's agenda, and they are lock and step with him. Over 80% of Egyptians agree with Morsi and his agenda. The demonstrators basically are the minority. When he declares himself a dictator, the demonstrators who are the pro-democracy, the liberal ones, the young ones, came to the street fighting basically their last fight, thinking this is it, either live or die, because they knew what the future holds with Morsi. And while we saw tens of thousands in Tahrir Square demonstrating against the Morsi agenda, the Muslim Brotherhood turned out hundreds of thousands of demonstrators. And the weekend following, in the city of Giza alone, which is a sister city to Cairo, they had 200,000 demonstrators who were pro-Morsi and pro-Sharia. But the Western media did not cover all the pro-Morsi Sharia, pro-Sharia movement. They covered only the pro-democracy movement. Because if they would have covered the majority of the people taking to the streets all over Egypt who are pro-Morsi and pro-Sharia and an Islamic regime in Egypt, it would have made the media look like fools, because for a year they have fooled the American public into thinking Egypt is a moderate nation, the Muslim Brotherhood are moderate people, Morsi is a moderate person, and ignored the warning signs that basically the majority of Egyptians voted and elected over two-thirds of the Egyptian parliament were the Muslim Brotherhood and the even more radical Salafist group. So The results on the ground speak far more than what the media are telling us here in the West.
That brings me to ask you a question. You're more familiar with the subject than I could ever be. But I started thinking, you had Hamas and Israel shelling each other recently. And then Morsi comes in and is propped up by the State Department and the Obama administration as being the moderate voice, the negotiator, the peace seeker. And I've often wondered if the Muslim Brotherhood is so well organized and so educated in how to create situations, if maybe Morsi didn't help instigate the trouble between Hamas and Israel recently just to appear as if he was the moderate.
Well, here is the thing between Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas is a part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They were birthed by the Muslim Brotherhood. They're an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood has 70 offshoot Islamic organizations in the world, including Al-Qaeda and Hamas. The Muslim Brotherhood was founded in 1928. It is the oldest Islamic radical movement in the world. So the Hamas looked at Morsi as basically a leader, someone that they looked up to, that they highly respected. Morsi represents the Muslim Brotherhood. He and Hamas share the same agenda, and that is the demise of Israel. The difference between Morsi and Hamas is Morsi is very highly educated. He was even educated in the United States. He's very politically savvy, unlike the militia and the new leaders of Hamas who just, shout in the wind, speak what's on their mind. They're not as organized and as calculated as the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. So This is why Morsi was able to broker the peace agreement, because he was able to tell Hamas, listen, there is a better way to do it. You guys are basically shooting yourself in the foot. Here's how we can work the deal, and it'll be beneficial to both of us in the end.
Well, something tells me that the deal that was made between Hamas and Israel, with Morsi being the moderator, has definitely worked out to where Hamas is going to be restocked with weapons at a rate that I don't think anybody's willing to acknowledge at this point.
You are correct. We are already seeing the shipments going to Gaza from the Sinai and from Egypt. We are already seeing that. And Morsi also used the whole brokerage of this agreement, Larry. Basically, it bought him brownie points, earned him brownie points, and that's why he was able to declare himself a dictator. And we didn't see anything from the West immediately because they were in shock, especially our administration, because they sang his praises after he brokered the peace treaty. And again, it was our government that propped him up. It was our government now that brought Morsi to power. And we're still funding them. I mean, we are still even sending them money. We are still sending them shipments of arms and weapons. And we know, Larry, that sooner or later some of these weapons are going to end up in the wrong hands, just like what we did in Libya. We sent the Libyan rebels. We wanted to support them. We sent them weapons. And we found out that we basically were helping a weapon line to go from Libya to Syria. But all this points to the lack of understanding on the part of our government with what's happening in the Middle East, the true players of the Middle East. And I do not know, Larry, if this is just wishful thinking on the part of a Democratic president, because this is exactly what we saw with the Carter administration bringing Khomeini to power and throwing Shah under the bus, exactly what Obama did, threw Mubarak under the bus and brought the Muslim Brotherhood to power.
Speaking of Syria, not only did we learn that we gave weapons to Libyan rebels, those same weapons are now assumed. Actually, I would say some people would be willing to bet their life that those very weapons are what killed 2 Navy SEALs, a foreign services employee, and a U.S. ambassador in Benghazi. What is going to take place in Syria? Do you see the possibility of Muslim Brotherhood-backed rebels in Syria getting their hands on chemical weapons, using them somehow to make it look like it's Assad so that they can actually take a stronger foothold within Syria itself?
Well, they already have a very strong foothold in Syria. They've been trying to rise for the last 30 years. Let's not forget that Hafiz al-Assad, Bashar's father, basically massacred 25,000 of them in the city of Hama 30 years ago. And the thing with Syria is the Alawites are only 10% of society. The majority of society, the 90%, are Sunni Muslims. They are the Muslim Brotherhood. So the rebels that we are seeing in Syria right now, who are rising against the Assad regime, are the Muslim Brotherhood. They are the descendants of the people that he massacred who were trying to rise against his father 30 years ago. And so this is why we're seeing a special cooperation between them and Egypt, for example. We're seeing the weapons go to the rebels. We are seeing the situation in Syria is so bad that no matter who wins, whether they are able to throw Assad away and the rebels, under a new government will form their own new government, and then we're going to see the true colors of the Muslim Brotherhood and their affiliation, it's going to spell bad for the United States, or whether Assad stays in power is still bad for the United States. But the difference is, if Assad stays in power, it is much better for America, it is much better for the West, and it is much better for the minorities in Syria. As bad as this sounds, we're better off with Assad than we are with whoever's going to replace him.
You brought up the distinguishing facts that the majority of the Muslim Brotherhood is Sunni. And I had another guest on a few weeks back, and we were talking about the differences between the Sunni Muslims and the Shiite Muslims. Shiites were actually and are, for the most part, the majority in Iran and the uprising against the Shah. What is it about the two groups that they themselves will attack each other, but when it comes to focusing on a Western target, as the U.S. has become, they tend to work very well together when it's for a common goal?
That's right. A great point, Larry. Great point. And I actually discussed this in detail in my last book titled They Must Be Stopped, because they could be fighting each other to death. And as we have seen, they are ruthless when it comes to killing each other. And they've been fighting for over 1,000 years. But they come together against the infidels, and here is why. Because under Islam, in Islam, Prophet Muhammad divided the world into two sections: Dar al-Harb, the house of war, and Dar al-Islam, the house of Islam. The house of Islam will always be at war with the house that is not yet conquered by Muslims, and that is the house of the West, the house of the non-Muslims. So while their Muslims can fight amongst each other, when it comes to fighting between them and their enemies, the Ummah, or the Islamic nation, because all Muslims are considered a part of one nation, the Ummah, they all have an obligation to work together against their enemy. That's when they put all their differences aside and come for the sake of the religion and the ideology, come together to defeat their enemy per their religious foundation. And a perfect example of that, Larry, is in 2006 when we saw a war breakdown between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon and Israel and Hamas in Gaza. That's when Hamas kidnapped an Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit, and also 2 weeks later Hezbollah in Lebanon broke international boundaries and kidnapped Israeli soldiers as well. So here we see Hezbollah in Lebanon, a Shiite group, coordinating an attack against Israel with their cohorts, Hamas, the Sunnis in Gaza. Meanwhile, Iran and Al-Qaeda were funding and supporting both of them against their enemy. This is the best example that I can think of in modern times where we have seen this play out, where they could be fighting each other to death, yet they work together in a coordinated attack against their enemy, Israel.
See, and that was something I think a lot of us who don't know the history, as well as you and others, need to understand. And I distinctly remember when the Shah of Iran was overthrown, the distinction made was Shiite Muslim, Shiite Muslim, Shiite Muslim. I don't even think that I ever heard the term Sunni until Desert Storm and Baghdad.
Right, and Saudi Arabia and all their exporting, I mean, let's face it, Saudi Arabia exports two things, oil and terrorism. And the reason why you didn't hear much about them is because we really did not pay that much attention to the Middle East, Larry. I mean, America, the Middle East had oil. We saw romantic movies produced by Disney, Alibaba and Arabian Nights and these types of things. And nobody really paid attention to the Middle East. The only reason we had to pay attention to Iran is because of the hostages. That's how they got on our radar. But that was the birth of the spiritual movement of the radical Islamic movement around the world rising against the West. Because by the end of 1979, Islam was facing two things that helped Islam be reborn again. Number one was the founding of the oil in the Middle East, which gave the Sunni radicals the money in order to spread their Wahhabi ideology, the radical ideology worldwide by building mosques, by supporting Islamic radical organizations and charities worldwide. And then in 1979, Khomeini came to power as the spiritual leader. So now we saw the Muslim movement have a spiritual leader as well as the funding, which gave it the power and strength to mobilize worldwide and truly rise against the West. In my book, I talk about how America has been attacked under radical Islam, by radical Islam, under different administration, whether Democrats or Republicans. America was attacked under the Carter administration, a Democrat, with the hostages in Iran. America was attacked again under the Ronald Reagan administration, a Republican, with the blowing up of the Marines in Lebanon in 1983. That's right. America was attacked again under George Bush Sr. America was attacked again under the Clinton administration with the bombings the first time. That's right, the World Trade Center in 1993. And it was also under President Clinton that the Taliban trained 10,000 Al-Qaeda members in Afghanistan. Now, these people were not being trained for entertainment. They were being trained to attack the United States of America. At that time, Larry, George Bush Jr. and Dick Cheney were not even a blurb on the political American landscape. And then again, we were attacked under President Bush. And after that, everybody thought, if we just elect President Obama, all our sins will be forgiven. All of us were going to get together and sing Kumbaya with the Islamic world. And obviously that did not happen, because 2 days after President Obama became president-elect, Al-Qaeda, under Osama bin Laden at the time, issued a press release saying, we continue our jihad against the United States regardless of who lives in the White House. So this is a problem that America needs to open its eyes and realize we are fighting a war that has been declared on us by radical Islam rising worldwide right now. We better pay attention, because it's not a Democratic issue, it's not a Republican issue, it's an American issue that all Americans need to wake up to protect the country.
Ms. Gabriel, where can people go to get more information on actforamerica.org?
The best question ever. People can go to actforamerica.org. We are now the largest national security grassroots organization in the United States, with over 250,000 members and 750 chapters nationwide. I urge our listeners to go, sign up to get our emails and action alerts, and get involved so together we can protect our nation and our future.
And at actforamerica.org, they can also get They Must Be Stopped, Why We Must Defeat Radical Islam, and how we can do it. And they can even get it autographed.
That's right. That's right. For a donation for Act for America, which we would greatly appreciate and need for the work, the important work that we do. They can get the book and get it personally autographed, and I will be so grateful.
Ms. Gabriel, have a very Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Thank you so much to you as well and all our listeners, and I wish you all a very happy and healthy and prosperous New Year.
Thank you, and please tell your daughter I said happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I sure will.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody, please, you really do need, if you want information on the subject, and you want it from someone who has personally lived it, who I'm convinced knows more about what she's talking about than most of these so-called experts that we see paraded out on the different media networks and whatnot, to explain why it is that the Middle East continues to explode, and we tend to be the ones that end up feeling the shrapnel from those explosions. Go to actforamerica.org. You can get more information on joining, signing up, as well as contributing and getting a personally autographed copy of Miss Gabriel's book, They Must Be Stopped, Why We Must Defeat Radical Islam and How We Can Do It. I think you will find Miss Gabriel's personal story from being raised in Lebanon and escaping the Muslim radicalism that took over her home country more than worth the time. You're listening to Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on the Rense Radio Network. We'll be back after these brief messages.
Little pictures, Philizzuto was a permanent fixture. Daydreaming through the science class lectures. My first kiss behind the high school bleachers. My mom's peoples, my grandma's sauce, and Vicky's cookies, chocolate s'mores. Thor and dental hygiene's lost. Diddlers, dug in hands, can make a chocolate to eat dental floors. California, seeing the sights, getting drunk, looking up at the Napa Valley moonshine, gazing at the stars on a Hollywood nights. If the stars walk by my side, I heard Lady Liberty lost her crown. As I was searching for my country at the lost and found, fell in love at first sight, messing around. He had the cutest little nose and the window at the door he found. I'm American made.
It's a real pleasure to introduce you to permaculture, a new concept that can allow all of us to survive these times of crisis, economically and with food, water, and energy in a healthy and abundant fashion. How? By establishing the amazing permaculture food forests. With one simple, fun, fascinating step-by-step guide, you can become completely confident about survival with permaculture. Food forests and permaculture are productive, life-saving technologies for any climate in both urban and rural settings. Jeff Lawton is the world's foremost permaculture authority, teacher, designer, and consultant. Jeff has successfully worked in many countries, cultures, and different climates, helping people survive with permaculture. Come and enjoy an exclusive aerial guided video tour with Jeff of his water harvesting swales, dams, and food forests. Go to jefflawton.org to view this fascinating free video on how to survive and prosper with permaculture. That's GEOFFLAWTON.org. American Masters Painting, a family-owned and operated business beautifying homes in Northern Virginia for over 30 years. American Masters craftsmen serve all of your painting, staining, and wood refinishing needs. American Masters not only guarantees to deliver satisfying results, they also promise a positive, rewarding, and personalized experience to your complete satisfaction. American Masters Painting is recognized for its flawless expertise in all custom interior and exterior projects. For a free and timely estimate, contact American Masters Painting toll-free at 888-760-7760 or visit AmericanMastersPainting.com. And remember, when you're thinking American Masters Painting, you're thinking one family serving another, one project at a time. American Masters Painting is a proud sponsor of Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on the Rense Radio Network.
You're listening to the Rense Radio Network, coast to coast on the Galaxy 19 KU band satellite, nationwide and worldwide on the Internet, and of course, on rense.com.
Are chemtrail geoengineering programs changing our weather and destroying our environment? Why in the world are they spraying?
They want to create a storm in the southeast, then they'll start engineering out over the North Pacific. That's where the tragedies will be.
Find out why critics are calling Why in the World Are They Spraying the most important film that is revolutionizing the environmental movement.
It's just going to get worse until the point where we're not going to be able to grow anything at all unless it's a Monsanto genetically modified, abiotic stress resistant seed.
Why in the world are they spraying? New international version with languages available from around the world. For 1 month, Rinse listeners receive free shipping. Go to the banner on the front of the Rinse website and click on the link for more info.
It's all about money, and weather is another form of commoditizing, a way the Central Command Group can commoditize another form of our life.
Why in the world are they spraying?
And if you control the weather, you're going to control the planet. It's that simple.
Will 2012 bring the Mayan end of world or the global banking collapse? In 2007, one man, Mike Dillard, made 5 predictions which forecasted the 2008 economic crisis and the pending Eurozone collapse. This week, Mike unleashes 3 brand new, shocking, must-watch videos with predictions for the coming year. www.the3videos.com. Over the past year, Mike Dillard has helped thousands of ordinary people create and recover wealth by tapping into the black box investing strategies the big banks don't want you to know about. www.the3videos.com. As the European banking system implodes and governments collapse at breakneck speeds, the next 12 months will be the most anticipated and important months in modern human history. This will make 2008 look like a walk in the park. Everyone will be affected. Go to www.the3videos.com now. Learn how to prepare your family and prosper during the global financial collapse.
You're my soldier boy, a man amongst men. You're my soldier boy, a man amongst men. You're my soldier boy.
And welcome back. You are listening to Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on the Rinse Radio Network. And we have 2 days left before, at the end of Friday's 7 o'clock hour, we say thank you for listening and good night for the last time. I am holding in my hand a letter that I got today along with a picture book. And I want to read this to you. Monday night, we had Foster Freeze on the program for the first hour. And Foster was talking about a new web domain name, Left Right Forward March. We have it up on SinclairNews.net, and it is actually LRLRFM.com. But we have it linked in the center column under the heading SN Supported and Recommended. And in our refocusing the direction in which Sinclair News is going to move in the coming new year, I made it clear that we're going to start going about this with the intent and the desire to bring people from both sides together and trying to come to solutions for what ails us. And we're going to not link to or promote any, be it media outlet, be it conservative website, liberal website, anything that we don't have the ability to say operates and conducts themselves on the same standards in which they insist that others conduct themselves. We will continue to list certain blogs that we have listed, my goodness, for well over 4 years now. Some of them not quite as long. Others maybe a little longer. But we're going to stick strictly to particular news sites that we will link to that we believe are possibly fair and transparent and open. But we're going to push really hard, and those things that are linked to and listed under SN supported and recommended will be based on our own criteria that these particular groups conduct themselves with the same integrity, honesty, and transparency that they seek from others. And we've got quite a few up there that we feel meet that criteria at this point. But I want to read this. Greetings from snow-clad Wyoming. Would you be interested in helping reduce the divisiveness that plagues our culture? Not only does resentment and anger impede progress, it tears our country apart and undoes the progress already made by generations of Americans before us. A house divided against itself cannot stand is wisdom from past centuries, written in the gospel and reiterated by President Abraham Lincoln, and is still relevant today. I bought the domain leftright.forwardmarch.com or LRLRFM.com as a shortcut you can use to encourage all Americans of every political stripe to come together to advocate and promote ideas and projects upon which we all can agree. About the same time, our friends Molly and George Green sent us a copy of the enclosed book. And the enclosed book that this letter is referring to is a picture book that was put together by a volunteer, and I'll talk about that when I finish reading the letter. As Lynn and I read through, our hearts were touched by the picture of the young girl ankle deep in contaminated, filthy water, and were inspired by the final picture of clean, safe water flowing from a faucet in front of a healthy, smiling face. The Green family founded Water Missions International in Charleston, South Carolina, from proceeds of the sale of their environmental test and engineering firm. For the 12 years since, they have been serving as unpaid volunteers. The purification unit George designed filters harmful bacteria and all kinds of cruddy stuff from existing water sources in 49 countries. I first met them in Sri Lanka after the tsunami there in December 2004. Charity Navigator accorded Water Missions International their highest rating 6 years in a row. Only 3% of U.S. charities ranked can boast such high marks. Here's the pitch. A staggering 9.1 million lives are lost each year because of really bad water. Lynn and I would like to suggest that you find someone who does not share your political perspective and request that both of you send money to help reduce the number of illnesses and deaths. Then, seek with that other person more common ground. We can all agree that clean water is essential to a better world, so build upon that. Our family foundation gifted to Water Missions International a $1 million challenge grant and paid for the books, so all dollars can go to saving lives. Excuse me. Could you consider magnifying this challenge by asking Molly and George to send you a bunch of books so you too could send to your friends? If this idea doesn't work for you, how about then just sending a big fat check? A small check? $10 cash? Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Left, right, forward, march. Foster and Lynn. You can send donations to Water Missions International, P.O. Box 31258, Charleston, South Carolina, 29417, or online at www.watermissions.org/challenge. You're listening to Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on the Rense Radio Network. When we come back from this commercial break, I will tell you about this picture book and what I'd like to see you do. We'll be right back.
The new class of liberal order, my times and unleashed on society. Mentally sterilized with common sense
Heart-related health problems affect millions of people each year. Maybe you're one of the many who suffer from issues related to angina pain, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, unbalanced cholesterol, irregular heartbeat, or clogged arteries. There is a solution that doesn't involve expensive prescription drugs that only mask the problem and leave you with horrible side effects. If you are ready to live your life free of sickness, pain, and fear, live your life with increased vitality, energy, and youthfulness, and experience your body healing itself, then you're ready for Heart and Body Extract from Healthy Hearts Club. Heart and Body Extract has a 23-year proven track record of using certified organic herbs that make up an excellent formula to balance and support the heart and circulatory system. In as little as 2 weeks, you can feel amazing results when your 2-month supply of Heart and Body Extract today. Call 1-866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
If you're taking 1, 2, 5, or more nutritional supplements, please stop. Simplify your supplementation with Bio Superfood, the most advanced nutritional whole food supplement you can buy. Men, women, children, even Olympic athletes the world over have discovered Bio Superfood from BioAge.com. And now take just one nutritional supplement instead of many. The Bio Superfood formulas are whole food products composed with 4 of the most nutrient-dense algae found on Earth. Bio Superfood for the brain helps with focus, memory, clarity, and mood. If you can increase brain health, the rest of the body is a no-brainer. Bio Superfood has 0 toxicity and is safe for you and your family. Learn more and order your Bio Superfood formulas at BioAge.com, spelled BIOAGE.com, BioAge.com, or call 877-288-9116. That's 877-288-9116. BioAge, the age of advanced organics.
We are 4 hours and 15 minutes away from saying good night. The book that Foster Friess was referring to in that letter is Water Missions International, Water for a Thirsty World. And it is just that. It is a hardcover picture book. After talking with Foster on this program Monday night, I went to the information on the Friess Family Foundation's $1 million challenge to Water Missions International. And a graphics individual who has been quite good to us at Sinclair News and through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair, who runs the website A Return to Common Sense, the2.com. Doug Bennett has been exceptional in helping us to create graphics that work within the restrictive confines of the website. In the header at sinclairnews.net on the left-hand side, you will see a blue graphic that takes from 2 pictures on Water Missions International's website, and both of these pictures are actually in this book that I'm holding in my hand. And you can click on that graphic and go directly to the $1 million challenge page and choose to contribute, which I would encourage you to do. I will tell you, I spent some time this afternoon on the phone with Mrs. Green, who is one of the co-founders, and basically told her that I was calling because I'd like to have him on the program tomorrow night. And I told her that I was calling because today I received this in the mail from Foster with the book. And Miss Green told me the story about how this book came about. And I want people to understand. The production of this book was done by a volunteer, and Foster and others have actually paid to have more of these books published for the purposes of distributing them and having people put them on their coffee table so that your visitors can flip through it and see it. And you know the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, the first couple of pages are a brief, history of how Water Missions International came about. And it says, it is our prayer that this book will open your eyes to the global water crisis that so many of our brothers and sisters in developing countries experience every day. Nearly 884 million people lack the most basic of human needs, safe water. Another 2.6 billion people have no decent sanitation facilities. And even worse, a child dies every 20 seconds from a disease related to unsafe water and poor sanitation. When I read this, I contacted Miss Green because I wanted her and her husband to come on the program and tell listeners and myself why it is, even in 2012, we have so many people around the world that simply to this day still do not have access to the basic, safe, clean water. Now, the part that I had mentioned to Foster on Monday was that I understood some of this because having lived in Mexico myself, what a lot of people don't understand is just across the border, even in Tijuana, Nogales, Agua Prieta, Piedras Negras, Matamoros. Doesn't matter. You can be right on the border or you can be in the interior of Mexico. Most people who live in this country that go to Mexico, they go to the resort areas where they have flushing toilets, where they have running water. They don't drink it, but they have running water. The majority of Mexico doesn't. The smaller villages don't. Now, we have the luxury of turning on our faucet in our homes and taking a glass of water out of the faucet and drinking it, knowing that we're not going to die tomorrow from some bacteria in the water. Or at least we hope we're not going to. Well, just south of us, millions of people don't. The pictures in this book are worth more than 1 million words because it gives you something to look at from Sierra Leone, from Haiti, Honduras, Kenya, Haiti again, Belize, Mexico. I mean, these pictures, Peru. These pictures are enough to make you at least stop and think. Uganda, Indonesia, Malawi. The book explains and it shows pictures of what the water situation was before and after Water Missions International got involved. And this is something that we can do together regardless of what our political attitudes and opinions and positions are. And I think Foster's onto something. If we can come together on something that we agree on, such as every child should have access to basic, clean, safe water. In fact, everybody should. A lot of people in Mexico I don't know if you've ever been, and I'm not saying that you need to go without to provide for something for someone else, but let me tell you, Mexican households, for the most part, spend more money on water than they do on food. If you look at these pictures of a little child standing inside of a rock well of disgusting water, littered with sewage and trash and garbage, and then you think, this is actually these people's water source? This is what they drink and depend on for mere survival? See, we can argue conservative liberal positions all day long. What we can't argue is why we should not come together and help when we know we can. Now, those of you who know me know that when it comes to financial resources, I'm extremely limited in what I can or cannot do from a financial standpoint, but I do what I can. But see, SinclairNews.net can use its site to distribute this information and make people aware and give people the opportunity to make a difference. And that we do and we will continue to do. Now, I must admit, speaking with Miss Green this afternoon thrilled me to death. Not simply because I found the woman engaging and sincere in what her and her husband founded and what their mission is, but I also found another person who has had the opportunity to personally meet Foster Friess and have the same opinion of the man that I do, which is I think he's one of the most candid and forthright and upfront and honest people that you could ever come in contact with, as far as, talking to and feeling in your heart that what the man's telling you is what he truly believes. What Miss Green also reminded me, which I think a lot of people don't understand, and she said, even more important about Foster and Len Friess is that they put their money where their mouth is. And see, that was part of what I was asking Foster Monday, to let our listeners know exactly where he comes from, how he carries himself, how his family conducts themselves, how they live, because so many in this past heated political season, wanted to portray and degrade the man as being some wealthy, out of touch, uncaring individual based on politics, when it could not have been anything further from the truth if they had tried. I will treasure the fact that Foster felt us worthy enough to send us a copy of the picture book. But I'm also going to, rather than keep it in my house, I'm going to put it in my community's clubhouse, in a place to where everybody that uses that clubhouse and the libraries that we have within this community will have the opportunity to see this book and understand what it's meant to do. And I can assure you that the majority of the people in this particular community where I reside and I will most likely differ when it comes to political views. But you'd be surprised how well we work together when it comes to looking out for our neighbors or making life easier for those in the community who need a little bit of extra help. So I hope you will go to watermissions.org and check them out. And please be with us tomorrow as we talk to George and Molly Green, the founders of Water Missions International, in the second hour. Again, thank you for listening to Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on the Rense Radio Network. Check out actforamerica.org and thehomelessheroes.com. You won't regret either one of them. Until tomorrow, good night.
Collecting welfare, but bitching about her life ain't fair. Are you a contender? Hell yeah. Or just a pretender? You gotta be the man. Stand up and stand up. Check it out, I was kicking back, watching the flat screen, surfing through the channel, political pundits, all I see propaganda or integrity. Who's gonna win this? Come on, brace your rhythm, man, or been home, miss. It was a left, took integrity, got hit in the jaw. From the shot, heard around the world he never saw. Coming from a shout, looks like I picked another bloody loser. And all the media will do that to ya. Are you a contender? Hell yeah. Or just a pretender? You gotta be the man. That's right. Stand up and stand up. Welcome to the main event. Here we go.
Oxygen. It's nature's oldest therapy and plays an essential role in destroying viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, and fungus, and keeping the human body healthy and strong. Now, you can give your body and your immune system a mega boost of disease-fighting oxygen with all-natural Oxy-C. With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state of oxygen deprivation, which sets up a perfect environment for disease, general fatigue, and a host of other symptoms. Oxy-C is yours in simple, convenient capsules. Nothing to mix, nothing to hassle with. Take it with juice or water anytime. Feel a cold or flu approaching? Have no energy or spark anymore? Try all-natural Oxy-C and prepare to be amazed. Oxy-C is only available from New Earth Health Solutions at Rense.com. Look for the New Earth banner at Rense.com.
Hi, this is Jeff Rense. Royal Raymond Rife was without question the most gifted medical scientific genius of our age. He discovered that most disease-related microbes die quickly when exposed to their own specialized resonant radio frequencies. The BCX 411 Rife-type frequency instrument has received the highest praise on several continents for its precision, simplicity of operation, and successful research experiment. The BCX, with its comprehensive manual, allows you to select the frequencies you wish to experiment with for the length of time you want to run them. The BCX handheld plasma ray tubes and RF radio carrier wave.